Hello! What's going on, everybody? The Euros are approaching very soon. I made a video a week or two ago where I went over the most underrated player from every country that's participating in Euro 2021. You guys actually requested me to do another video like that, except with the most overrated players. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Now keep in mind while you're watching this video, this list was not easy to make at all. Obviously, every player that has made it onto their national team is a baller in one way or another. So many players I did choose on this list, I still absolutely love them. I just had to pick one player from each country, unfortunately. Some countries being more easy than others. But yeah, if you have any disagreements with what I'm saying in this video, let me know with who you replace my choices with in the comments below. Let's get into it though, in order with all the groups as always. Starting off with Italy, I've gone for El Shaarawy. I feel like this is one of the more easier choices than the other countries. This guy isn't talked about as much as he once was, but still, Italy have a lot of decent options for wingers, and El Shaarawy was still chosen in the squad. He's obviously still a professional playing for great teams, but he isn't very consistent compared to the rest of the Italian side, and there are definitely a lot of other Italian players that have performed a lot better than him, but he's still very well known throughout the football community. So that's why I got to give the most overrated player to El Shaarawy. But now moving on to Turkey, I've gone for Under. This guy also was talked about having a lot of potential. He's transferred around a bit, now mostly on Leicester's bench. He's gotten 2 assists this season in the Premier League, but not enough considering how much he's talked about. He's still young and can easily bounce back in his career, but there are a lot of other players in the squad that have done better than him as a whole throughout this season. Moving on to Wales, I've gone for Ethan Ampadu. Talked about way more than the rest of the Welsh players, and he's had a horrible season at Sheffield United, finishing 20th. Hopefully he bounces back in his career though. He's still very young. Now for Switzerland, I feel a bit bad giving this guy the most overrated spot. This one was a bit harder to decide compared to the other teams we've discussed so far. I've given it to Embolo. Embolo was talked about a bunch in the past as a young prospect, just like the others we mentioned, but he only starts about half the games for Borussia Mönchengladbach now and is definitely not one of the best forwards on the squad. They have a lot better options. Moving on to Belgium now. I hate giving this guy the most overrated player. He's had a fantastic career overall, but in terms of his form right now, he ain't the same. I gotta give this to Hazard. I mean, it speaks for itself. His market value went down an insane amount ever since he's joined Real Madrid. To be fair to him, he's got hella injuries, but still, whenever he has been on the pitch, he hasn't lived up to the hype. Definitely not a good replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo. They were looking for a better attacker, and he didn't really live up to the expectations. So I love this guy, so I really hope he does well in this Euro campaign and bounce back from this shaky point in his career. Belgium's a very class team, so if we got to give one of the players the most overrated spot, it's got to be him, unfortunately. Now for Denmark, I've gone for Braithwaite. Now obviously considering this guy's season so far, this guy does not have a great reputation right now. However, the fact that he was Luis Suarez's replacement at Barcelona in the first place is just saying a bunch. This guy's on one of the best teams in the world, and there are other Danish strikers that are better than him. So considering all that, this guy's the most overrated Danish player. Now for Russia, I've gone for Cheryshev. Now this guy came in clutch for Russia a few times in the World Cup. I'll never forget his goal against Croatia, which scared the shit out of me. But considering he used to play for Real Madrid and his career went downhill a bit, he hasn't been doing very well this season. Russia are a very well-balanced squad, so with all the talent they have, I think this guy is the most overrated one out of the bunch. Not that he's bad though necessarily, just not as good as the others. Now for Finland, I'm sorry, I gotta skip Finland. There's literally no player that's overrated in that squad. Every player that's talked about a bunch deserves it, such as Pukki, Radecki. No player other than that is overhyped, so class squad. Good luck in the Euros, guys. Now for Netherlands, this one might be controversial. There are a decent amount of options you could choose from here. I've gone for Ake though. The fact that this guy got relegated from Bournemouth and then signed for Manchester City without even doing much this season. He's played a few matches, but he was definitely not one of the starters. They had a lot of center back options. Even though he plays for a team like Manchester City, he's definitely not one of their first choices, and most people do know about this guy, so yeah, in my opinion, this guy's the most overrated Dutch player. Now for Ukraine. This guy used to be sick. Now he's dipping a bit, but a lot of people still know about him. Pretty sure he's injured right now. Feel a bit bad for him, but we're going to go with Konoplyanka. This guy used to be a monster, very quick machine, and compared to the other Ukrainian talent, I think a lot of them are way more underrated. Compared to this guy, I got to give this guy the most overrated spot right now. Austria, I've gone for Valentino Lazaro. He's still a young, decent player, but he didn't do much on his loan to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Didn't start in many matches either, so I gotta give him that spot because other than that, the Austrian squad is pretty underrated in my opinion. And the ones that do get the hype, such as Alaba and Sabitzer, deserve it. Moving on to Macedonia, I've gone for Ristovski. This guy was decent when he played in Portugal, but he definitely dipped in form. He's not doing much at Dinamo Zagreb right now. I was very excited when I saw he signed for them, but then I realized he's been a bit disappointing. He doesn't even start that much for them, so sorry buddy, please prove me wrong. Now for Croatia, this one is a very tough one to decide. I still love this guy to bits. He's one of my favorite players from Croatia actually, just such a character, but if I gotta give one the most overrated label, it's gonna be Lovren. This guy has had an incredible career obviously. He just won the Russian league with Zenit, but he talks himself up a bit too much. After his amazing year in 2018, making it to a Champions League final and a World Cup final, he deserves to be considered one of the best defenders. But then right after that season, he was barely starting for Liverpool. And this guy does have his moments where he's world class, but overall throughout his career, he's been very, very inconsistent. He's either like the worst person on the pitch or the best. It's no in between with this guy. So yeah, like I said, this was a hard one. With all the Croatian players that are in the current squad, I had to give it to this guy. Now for England, this one's insanely tough. Many times people bash English players saying they're all overrated and all that, but all the English players actually lived up to the hype this year. They all had amazing seasons. Mason Mount, Phil Foden. With all that considered, I gotta choose one person out of that list, and for England, I gotta go with Saka. Saka has had great moments in this season, but overall, not as good as the other young candidates. Arsenal were definitely a bit shaky this season. This guy did save them sometimes, but not enough obviously. Even Lingard just defied all odds this season, so yeah. If I gotta give it to one, it's gonna be Saka, but it's really tough. Now for Scotland, I gotta go for Fraser. This guy has had good moments in his career, but Newcastle as a whole haven't been too brilliant. So considering that most Scottish players are not talked about a lot, this guy's gotta take the spot. For Czech Republic now, I've gone for Vidra. Burnley haven't had the best season, and he hasn't been very impressive being there. He's had way better seasons at Watford and Derby. Overall, many Czech players have been absolutely insane this season, so he's definitely been the most disappointing, and he's in the Premier League, so gotta give it to him. Now for Spain, another very tough one, as many of these players are world class. I had a tough one deciding this, but I gotta go with David De Gea. A brilliant keeper, has done a lot throughout his career. He saved Manchester United many times in the past, but I feel like overall he can be very, very inconsistent, especially for the national team actually. I'm not trying to discredit Ronaldo's hat trick against Spain, that was a brilliant performance, but with two of those goals, one of them literally hit off De Gea, he should have saved that, and then the free kick was brilliant, but De Gea didn't even move. At that time, people were talking about how he's the best keeper in the world. I definitely don't think he is at that level anymore. So for that reason being, I'm going to give him the most overrated spot. This is up for debate though. I feel like there's a few other options. Maybe Morata, but Morata's been okay despite Juventus's shaky season. Now for Poland, a lot of these players are not talked about a lot, so I only had a few options to choose from. And with that being said, I had to go with Szczesny. Szczesny has made some silly mistakes that costed Juventus this season, not to mention the Champions League against Porto. Overall, he's an amazing keeper, but when you compare him to Fabianski, Poland's other keeper, he started for most of West Ham's matches. West Ham have had a brilliant season this year, so I feel like starting Fabianski in this Euro campaign isn't even a bad shout. So with that being said, that's why I had to put Szczesny as the most overrated. Now for Slovakia, this one is tough again for obvious reasons, but I had to go with Lobotka. This guy's obviously a great player, but he hasn't started a single match in Serie A, and he hasn't really done much for Napoli this season. So considering that he's one of Slovakia's best center mid options, I had to label him as the most overrated player. Now moving on to Sweden, I have gone for their goalkeeper, Olsen. I knew Pickford was going to be the main man for Everton, but I thought this guy would start more. He had a bit of an interesting career, going up in his way through Roma, and then he just kind of disappointed. I definitely think most Swedish players deserve the credit they get, but this guy's just had some disappointing moments, so for that and the fact that he's in the Premier League, that is my answer. Now moving on to the last group, we're going to start with Germany. These all should be pretty interesting. For Germany, I feel like the answer's a bit obvious here though. I've gone for Timo Werner. This guy's had a pretty bad reputation recently, obviously, for choking in many moments for Chelsea, and he also just has not been doing very well internationally. Germany don't have a ton of striker options though, so they kind of got to rely on this guy. They could put Havertz up there like I suggested in my Germany 11 video, but they might have to rely on this guy, so hopefully he steps up. Now for Portugal, this one is very, very tough as there's a lot of young talent being discussed right now. They're all brilliant as well. Even this guy I'm about to mention, but I had to pick one, so I've gone for Joao Felix. So many of these young forwards have had amazing seasons, and out of the bunch, I feel like this guy's talked about the most, and he still had a good season, don't get me wrong, but out of all of them, he hasn't been as great. He starts in less than half the matches for Atletico, but with that being said, he still got 7 goals and 6 assists this season. So it was a tough one to call, but I still think the likes of Jota and the Silvas have just been way better, so yeah, Joao Felix is getting that overrated spot. Now for France, it's either between Dembele or Martial. They both were young prospects that just over time have not lived up to the hype. If I had to pick one, I'll just go with Martial. Sorry. And now for Hungary, I'm sorry, but just like Finland, I can't give an answer on this one. All the players that are talked about are actually beasts. I'm really curious to see if they can upset one of these teams in the group of death. But yeah, this list was already hard enough to create, so I just had to exclude Finland and Hungary from this video. Sorry to disappoint you guys on that, but it's just impossible to decide for those two teams. So yeah, that's the end of my most overrated list. Again, no disrespect to any of the players I mentioned, and honestly, watch them perform this summer after I made this video. But yeah, like I said, let me know if you have any disagreements in the comments below. Always love to hear what you guys think. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all very, very soon. La noche.